many fans you earned this year.
Hello and welcome back to coverage of the PDGA Euro Tour. We are excited to be bringing you coverage of the 2023 Swedish Open, the fourth stop at Ymergårdens Discgolfcenter. A beautiful course, really stunning, both visually and in the play. This is round 2 front 9 FPO lead card action, brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, people? Nice to be here once again looking at this beautiful course, as you said. Let's take a look at the players. Obviously, Silva Saarinen with the hot first round. She's playing on a super high level right now, coming off from the Krokel Open win from last week and looking forward to getting another one of those possibly.
And joining her, Anniken Steen from Hamar, Norway, lefty on the card. She showed a really solid round in round 1 and she's worked her way onto lead card here in day 2.
Yeah, Anniken was actually sick before the tournament, so pretty impressive stuff to still be on the lead card with a very limited practice. And third on the card, the local, or at least the most local out of these players, Amanda Lennartsson, representing Sweden, hopefully gonna bring some Swedish knowledge to this course.
And rounding out our lead card here in day 2, Marianne Must from Estonia, sponsored by Latitude 64. We've seen a little bit of her play previously on MDG Media in Croatia earlier in the season, and I think she's well equipped for a strong performance here today in Boras.
Yeah, Marianne actually winning the Pro Forester tournament in Croatia. So already a Euro Tour champion and hopefully possibly another one here. As we take a look on the first hole. Only 100 meters. You need to challenge these trees you see on the left side. Just go around them, hopefully hyzer left towards the basket. Most players are throwing some sort of a straight to stable driver, hopefully putting some decent height on the disc and utilize the skip at the end.
We see Silva Saarinen here, our leader, getting us started with a nice hyzer flip, a forwards pushing flight around those obstacles, and in fact pushing a little bit too long. She fires past the basket and contests with the hillside.
Yeah, and for the lefty, as Anniken and Marianne, this whole play is a little different. They really have to decide to either just play a safe hyzer more to the right or try to challenge the bush or the group of trees, as Anniken did, but unfortunately getting right into the middle of it.
And Amanda there, with a very low release, gets a hyzer skip off the banner, keeps her out in the fairway, although a little bit too low for the distance she's looking for. And here's the tricky lefty line that you mentioned, Marianne, looking to push the left side tree line on a hyzer, and with a slight early release, slides up to those banners as well. We will see some long looks to the basket and some upshots still remaining. Marianne up first with the wide straddle forehand, likely trying to keep this on Anheuser. Although she has not gotten too close to the basket, will still have quite some work to do. This is Anniken now.
Alright, and next up, Amanda here, just putting it under the basket, although gets a bit of a nasty roll away. Amanda, possibly out of these players, with the least experience of lead cards, so looking forward to keeping those nerves in check, as we saw Marianne also putting it under the basket.
Yeah, we have Silva and Anniken, who are already on a filmed round in round 1. Marianne, who, as you mentioned, had a great performance on lead card in Croatia earlier in the season. Oh, just a little bit high for Silva on her birdie putt. Definitely coming into play. The caliber of players and the production team walking with the card can contribute. Oh, and a few putts just slightly high and then low there, as none of the players are able to connect. They'll be left with their short putts remaining.
Yeah, a little bit of a tense play on this first hole. I'm sure the second card or second round lead card is it's not an easy spot, you know, with the field getting more and more talented every year. Lead card appearance is certainly something to be proud of already, as we saw Amanda tapping in for bogey, Marianne with the same, and also Anniken with the bogey. So Silva actually getting a stroke on the card with the lone par there.
And she didn't need it, but I'm sure she's happy to extend that cushion as we go to hole 2.
Exactly, and hole 2, playing at a short distance of 110 meters for a par 4. At first you have to push these trees on the right side of the fairway and hopefully hyzer before them. Hyzer and skip your way into this open field where you have a relatively short approach from the ideal drive, only about 50 meters. At the very end you have the Mando tree on the right that you have to navigate left of. So not a very long hole, but you need to be precise with both the drive and the approach.
Silva still retaining the box, ensuring to get that nose up height, pushing it quite straight but with a solid overstable finish to the left. As you mentioned, Elias, this course very technical, lending itself to good placement shots, not needing too much distance, but just some accurate and smooth lines. You see, speaking of smooth lines, Anniken there, not quite accurate though, hits one of those final trees before she can crest the hill and will still be left on the slope.
Yeah, and if you push this drive too far straight and right, you might contend with that OB line. Actually, Amanda is flying towards and does end up going OB. You want to push those trees on the right side, but hopefully hyzer before them, and that's only way to get into the ideal spot on this hole.
As you see, Marianne also extending herself a little bit there. A very difficult line for the left-handed players if they're looking to throw backhand. Anniken now from her lie. Looks like she kicks significantly down the hill. Still a lot of distance. She simply pitches up out into the fairway, looking to be playing for par now. Marianne likely the same. We'll see how much she chooses to bite off. She needs to throw nose up here to battle the remaining altitude.
Looks like a very aggressive line, actually. That's a good play, I believe. Just fading before the Mando, but that's actually, I believe, in the circle. So really utilizing that skip at the end and never really bringing the Mando into play even. As Amanda is very much doing, believe, not missing the Mando, so hitting the Mando tree but not going past the line. That's a good break there.
Silva, from an ideal placement, fires her upshot into the green, has a little bit too early of a fade, but a very nice touch on the distance and speed control as she settles. Also within the circle, Silva will be looking for birdie. And Anniken here from her placement shot gets into the green right outside bullseye. I think a short par for her and no damage done from what was quite a difficult position from the tee shot.
Yeah, that was well done. As you can see, Anniken still has to contend with that Mando tree, able to only pitch up inside the circle. Marianne here with an absolute confident. That was a very confident stroke and great birdie save from a very short drive. You don't see birdie saves often from that positions.
Amazing upshot and amazing putt for Marianne and for Silva there. She's known to be one of the best putters, not just in FPO, but currently in the world. Really strong from Circle 1 and Circle 2. Two great birdies here on hole 2.
Yep, certainly. It's not one of the more difficult holes on the course, as it is pretty short. And you don't need insane distance and not really insane accuracy on any of these shots. But still, not a gimme birdie. As we saw Amanda tapping in, or making actually a pretty good putt for the bogey, and Anniken for the par there. As we move on to one of the easier holes on the course, only 75 meters, playing slightly downhill. It's a pretty wide gap, about 5 meters across. Ideally you want to throw something dead straight, hopefully land maybe even 10 meters before the basket, because it is a quite a fast green, especially with that OB looming behind the basket. Only about 6 meters of space you have behind the basket here. So a little bit short is good.
as well as the soft touch of downhill perhaps contributing to that early landing point that you want. And we see Silva there bleed a little bit left, actually going around that left side of the early tree. I think more of an errant release than the intended line, but still has enough distance to have a long look. And Marianne with the inverse error on the right side trees, still about 50 meters to the pin.
Yeah, that's a couple of surprising misses from these high-level players. As we said, the gap it's not very tight, it's actually kind of wide, as Anniken has kicked all the way to the right side, challenging that right side OB that rarely comes into play unless you hit some trees and get a bad kick. And Amanda here with the best looking line by far and skips her way into the putting area there.
And you saw how friendly that ground play was. She hit the ground really early and slid her way up into the circle. As we see a solid approach there, playing a little bit with some extra fade on the downhill slope. This is Anniken here from the right side, going for the flex putt through the trees and a good bid, but coming up just a little bit short. She'll walk away, I think, with a 3 that she feels all right about. Although, as you mentioned, this is a hole where you're looking to find the birdie. Wow.
As Silva almost does. Very good putt, but just trickles through the left side. And Amanda here, great putt. I believe putting is her strength as far as parts of the game. And you can see that clean, spinny stroke. Marianne also with a good stroke there.
Yeah, great save and a nice bounce back there for Amanda. You saw she had some difficulties on holes 1 and 2, carding 2 bogeys, so a great confidence booster here, as you mentioned, on a lead card on camera coverage to get her first birdie of this round and put herself back to even. We see Anniken there find the bogey, Marianne and Silva with the pars.
Seems like Anniken did actually end up going to the right side OB with the drive, which is unfortunate. Certainly not the hole you want to bogey. Going into hole 4, which is one of the more difficult holes on the course. On the drive you need good distance and angle control. Ideally, you want to land somewhere on the left side of this Mando. You have to navigate left side of it. Into this pretty wide wooded tunnel. There's only really one tree in the middle that you have to decide whether you want to go around to the left or around to the right. On this hole, the drive is the most important. If your drive is in good position, then you'll have a really easy time with this hole.
As we see this drive here, tracked by the spotter, offering the green flag, almost pushing that long a little bit too straight, but keeping it in bounds.
Yeah,
Silva here with a nice correction.
See many players challenging that left or left/long OB on this hole, which is easy to do if you get a little bit more glide in this downhill shot than you would like. Silva was a little bit short here. Marianne challenging the long side bush, which is a good aiming point. Kicks out of there and that should be a chance, even for the birdie, although it is a bit of an awkward angle from that short.
We see Anniken here playing nicely for the left-handed backhand hyzer. She too crashes those trees, but with the roll down, actually comes out the back a little bit. May open up for another left-handed backhand from the straddle position. Fortunate to not be right in the middle, although still not an easy shot. We have Amanda here. Very safe around that Mando, not playing with the width at all, but coming up just a little bit short.
Yeah, it's a good shot from that position. Would have required a fantastic shot to reach the basket, but not interested in that, as Anniken, on the other hand, playing a little bit too tight around the Mando and challenges the right side bushes.
Marianne playing the forehand anhyzer around that Mando as well on almost a cut roller angle. I think the air shot definitely intended though, and Silva here just a little bit short of where she'd like to be, I think. Getting off the anhyzer backhand, she actually kicks out to the left and will find a penalty stroke with that OB.
Yeah, That was a very aggressive shot from Silva. Actually, surprisingly aggressive. Going OB as Anniken is struggling on the right side. This hole is really showing its teeth. As it was for the whole entire weekend, playing as one of the more difficult holes on the course.
Yeah, and again speaks to the technicality and the course design being only 158 meters, still an incredibly demanding fairway and late Mando, encouraging really pinpoint placement, or you can see just the scrambles resulting from an imperfect lie here as these players continue to battle their way towards the green. A slightly overturned approach from Marianne. She'll be left with a tester putt back uphill. And Anniken,
I feel like almost throwing it in there. That was a great run, a good touch. I feel like on a similar situation as this, when the whole card is struggling on the hole, it's kind of boosting all the other struggles. As Silva ending the struggling here with the great bogey putt from circle 2. Wow, great composure.
Yeah, really smooth. Not the bogey save you want to have to make, but an amazing putt for Silva to stop the damage there. Amanda now, short putt remaining. A clean putting stroke and taking par, as you mentioned, on a hole that is, I believe, averaging well above par. Definitely not one to worry about walking away with here. A 4 is just fine, as Marianne looks to clean this one up now.
Yeah, especially with this card taking some bogey strokes more than they would have liked. I'm sure Amanda is just fine with the par there, being able to hold the box for 2 holes in a row and even once again gain strokes on everybody on the card. As we move on to hole 5, 150 meters, par 4, playing significantly downhill. Fairway is pretty wide, you want to throw something straight off the tee, hopefully keep your shot relatively low in order to not turn over to the right and also not fade out to the left. For the biggest arms in the field, this is an eagleable par 4, but most players are looking to just throw some sort of a mid-range or fairway driver down the fairway and get their easy-ish birdie from the perfect drive.
Yeah, a really beautifully framed hole with a wonderful aesthetic here. Even the big Böras letters at the back. A great compelling visual fairway as we see Amanda on the tee there fade out a little bit early. She'll be at the top side of that hill, but opening up the sort of rightwards entry to the green. We see Silva here. She went very aggressive in round 1, and she's looked to do the same here in round 2 as she has crushed this over on the long flex line. A really fortunate result to come back out into the fairway, and that had a ton of distance. I think should be very much still in play for birdie.
That's a great break from Silva. Judging by the angle, that would have been way in the right side bushes. As we see Marianne going with an aggressive shot, throwing something very high and flippy, and she's actually only about 20 meters from the basket, so gonna be up to her choice whether she wants to go for that eagle or just take the easy birdie.
Anniken now as well, utilizing the width, although as this fades, you mentioned very importantly the nose angle and height control, imperative to remain inside the fairway. Marianne was very high and was fortunate to kick back. Anniken a little bit less high than Marianne, but not as fortunate with the trees. Does fade out into the right side rough, and it is very thick over there. But we have Amanda up first, looking to manufacture an approach here, likely holding Anheuser the whole way, perhaps a light flattening out. And she's left herself quite some distance, I think about just outside the circle, but she's shown to have a confident putt.
Yeah, not the approach she was looking for, but definitely a chance, as Silva has jump putted her approach to about 6 meters, really showing off how far her drive got, even while hitting some trees. Also Anniken having to deal with those trees, but not a lot of distance, as
but
she
what a
throws a
shot.
beautiful skip shot.
Great knowledge blind of the basket, knowing exactly what shape she needs and trusting the ground play perfectly. You saw Marianne so far up the fairway, she could just offer that putt approach. And Amanda here to get us started actually snuck into the circle and then into the chains with that putt. Great birdie for Amanda from quite a tough lie. I'd say an imperfect tee shot and approach, but saving it on the green. Definitely a hole you want to walk away with birdie on. And Silva finds that 3 as well. Some really nice shots and putts.
Yeah, not really the most perfect drives by the card off the tee, but making up for them with the approaches and on the green. And looks like we're gonna have a star frame on this hole. It's one of the easier holes, actually the easiest hole on the course, so no surprises there. See the lead card playing the hole extremely well. And
but Marianne, perhaps a lapse in focus. As she did all the work to put herself up there, the last and shortest putt cashes out the left side. Maybe a slight early release on the grip. And whether it was a physical thing or a mental thing, we'll hope that she can hold her head high into hole 6.
yeah, that's something you just have to forget. Missing such a short putt is not common and should not be thought about too much. As we move on to hole 6, playing as one of the harder holes on the course, 96 meters uphill, but plays actually way longer with the steep uphill. There's one tree in the middle, you have to miss either to the left or right, and it's important to make that decision early, because the tree is a pretty big obstacle and many players are hitting that.
This one a little bit too low, and also finding the tree, although had it not, it still would have been grounded quite early, although it looks to have remained in the fairway. We will see Silva look to make a slight correction here, needing a lot of understability to battle the uphill with the nose up, and you can see that one underturned, but still very much fighting up the hill.
I think this hole is a great distance test for these players. You can really see the different arm speeds, and it's a huge advantage if you have a little bit more speed on the disc. You have a much shorter approach or even a chance for the birdie, as Anniken is in the fairway but a little bit short, so gonna have about 35 meters left to the basket.
Yeah, the elusive 2 here on hole 6. Very difficult to find. We see Marianne also catch the rough on the right side, still left with a lot of distance. You see that basket looking very small in the corner of your frame. She has to go for that standstill and create as much power in a short, compact form as possible. You saw her just reach that outer wall of the green, and Amanda having to do the same standstill. With a fortunate kiss off that tree, she looks to be in a very similar spot to Marianne, as we might have a bit of a putt-off now.
Yeah, very difficult hole, as we can see. A lot of long approaches to be had after their drives, as Anniken does a good job of approaching this elevated basket. Interesting stat about this hole, it is actually playing as exactly the same average as last hole, even with this hole being a par 3 and the last hole being a par 4. So really shows the difficulty of this hole, playing 0.75 strokes above par. As we saw a couple of layups there under the basket for par from Silva and for bogey from Marianne.
As we see the bid there just off the top, and an unfortunate roll, but wood chips slowing it down a bit, and it settles in a friendly and manageable position. Amanda to come back now. And just off the left side.
Unfortunate miss. Yeah, that was unexpected with the great putting she's had so far on the first 5 holes. Anniken there with a good par. That's actually exactly what you want on this hole. There was not a single birdie on this hole in this second round of the Swedish Open. So with a par, you're definitely not losing strokes to anybody. And I'm sure both Anniken and Silva are fully content with their threes.
Yeah, and you spoke to the average scoring of this hole. I think, while obviously extremely difficult to birdie, par is very manageable if you play into the fairway and don't try to bite off too much. Although, of course, there's many obstacles with the slope and the elevated basket. A lot of things that you need to manage on this hole. It's very, very difficult birdie, but manageable par if you opt to maybe try and mitigate some of that risk. Although you see the damage done to this lead card as we move on.
Hole 7. 85 meters you have to navigate right of this Mando. After that you have to choose this inside gap that the drone is flying, or the right side gap on the right side of those middle trees. Shot on both gaps is really a turnover or a Anheuser that just holds the Anheuser angle for the entire flight. It's not a very difficult hole, not a lot of trouble to be had if you just do not miss the Mando and hit somewhere in the gap. You're almost always within putting distance or a short approach. As we see Silva pushing a little bit long actually off the gap, but still has a good putt from the far side of the basket.
Yeah, Silva also, you might recall on hole 1 going long, she's throwing the disc with a lot of snap here today and hitting her lines, but maybe looking to modulate that power a little bit. Anniken now looking for the backhand turnover, doesn't have it retain the Anheuser angle throughout the flight and fades out a bit early. But as you said, many of these throws tend to filter towards some sort of putting situation, given the shape and distance of the hole. Really not too long. You just want to get yourself around that corner and up there.
Yeah, very true. And actually correcting my own mistake in the whole preview, I was talking about turnover. Obviously turnover for the left-handed players, Heiser for the right-handed, as we saw Marianne going with the mid-range there, leaving it a little bit low, I believe, going for that inside gap. And Amanda also hitting that inside gap very well. A little bit short, that's a common result on this hole. It's really hard to go long, like Silva did. It's a very, very rare result.
Marianne up first from deep circle 2, gives it a little nose up bid. I think sort of a half go there, ensuring that she can take fairly stress-free 3 while giving it a chance. And we see from the bushes here, I believe Anniken?
Yeah, I believe Anniken having to throw a scramble forehand there. And does that well. Let's see if Amanda can shake off those putting nerves from the last hole.
Oh, yeah.
And she does. Great, great bounce back birdie.
Yeah, great putt. She really controls the height, keeps it between the cage and the band for the duration of the flight. Silva here, you see her literally scratching her head. A bit confused about the release point on that putt. But coming back now, you see the focus and determination. A bit of a slow walk there. You can sense the palpable emotion there of missing that opportunity. And Marianne with another missed putt from within about 5 or 6. That one looks to be quite a lot healthier than the last missed putt, but still something that may be lingering in her mind on the green.
Yeah, but I can tell you it's after having a couple of those short misses, any sort of putt left is a true challenge, and it's hard to get rid of that thought of missing, especially if the disc is, slipping out or the release is not quite correct. So it's gonna be a mental test for Marianne from now on. As we walk on to hole 8, 102 meters, playing slightly uphill. You have to go over this rock wall, but still navigate under the low ceiling. Hopefully hit this gap with either a flat shot or a slight hyzer. Going with a driver, hopefully a straight driver. Possibly utilize the skip at the end of the shot and hopefully end up within putting distance. Many players here are trying to play that skip because the ground is quite fast, and it's often that you see big skips on this hole.
Yeah, and the height management really important here, as you mentioned, that thoughtfully placed rock wall underneath the low branches, and we see a great piercing shot from Amanda there, battling a good way up the hill. A lot of distance required. Another one similar to hole 6 that is really a solid distance check for these players. Silva, we know that she has a good arm on her. She battles well up the hill as well, fading a little bit on that fast green.
Yeah, Silva just outside the circle there, which is a great result. It's very rare to see players inside the circle on this hole, mostly for the fact that it's just playing a very long distance with this uphill low ceiling. As we see Anniken not quite managing the height control on the shot, throws it way too high and fading out to the right side. Still gonna have a chance for the par, but not an easy approach, most likely.
And Marianne also showed off her distance earlier this round, and you see it again here. She pushes quite far up, also a little bit high, similar to Anniken's, although she managed to get that turn, pushing it nose down under the branches. She's in a good spot, and Anniken with a clean upshot just beyond that last final guardian to give her an open look. We have Amanda now with a solid straddle bid, just a little bit tentative, but again, putting uphill from that far out, I think no real expectations to be making that too often.
Marianne also very safe run, or possibly even just trying to put it under the basket there. You can see the OB is very close, only about 4 meters behind the basket. Silva there with a good break, hitting some of the rocks and bouncing back out of the OB. That could have been a disaster if it had not bounced from the rocks there.
Yeah, hole 8, not without its dangers, but again, another one that's a very elusive birdie, but very manageable par if you try to play for it. And we see Silva here with a short putt. Anniken also taking her 3 as we look to be putting together a par frame here.
Yep, this was actually another hole that was not birdied throughout this second round. So par is the score to take here. And as everybody on the card has done so. Moving on to hole 9, a beautiful par 4 through the woods. You have to hit this tight gap early on the fairway. After the gap, you want your disc to be moving straight and ideally a little bit to the left to match the grade of the fairway. From the ideal drive, you only have about 60 meters left to the basket. It's a straight shot, and you need to have a good distance control on this hole because just a few meters behind the basket, it is already sloping down, and you don't want to be dealing with that downslope.
We have Amanda still holding the box, giving a solid pushing hyzer, although battling the left side trees is not quite out in the open, although looks to have gotten the majority of her flight cleanly on that one angle shot, potentially not flipping it up as much as she would like. But Silva overturning her disc to that right side rough and does not battle through. She'll be caught up with an obstructed look, perhaps limiting the distance she can get on her second shot.
Yeah, you could see Silva was going for a big shot there with some sort of a driver, trying to chunk a lot of distance off the tee. As we see Anniken with beautiful angle control there, throwing through the gap with some good height, going with a slower disc actually. That's a good position, only about 75 meters left to the basket.
Yeah, and I like the game plan of using a slightly lower disc. We see Marianne there shaping a really nice turnover that just does not quite beat that late tree line on the right side. I think the low-speed disc mitigates a lot of the turn and fade that might get players in trouble with those higher speed discs. And Marianne continuing to battle her way. She's now entered the mouth of the final tunnel, but has not progressed much up that late tunnel shot.
Amanda, even though she faded well into the left side, actually had a really good gap, having to throw another one of those pushing hyzers, and it's nowhere near the basket, but it's on the fairway and only about 40 meters to go. As we see Silva going really aggressive, turning it over to the right side and it's a scramble shot from there, but once again, not a lot of distance, only about 40 meters left.
And we see a smooth entrance into the green from, I believe, Marianne, actually firing it a touch long there. Looks to be coming back for about 5 or 6 meters softly uphill, and a nicely shaped shot. No, this is Marianne, so this is the angle that she's left with.
Anniken on the last shot. Marianne trying to shape something similar, but pulls it to the left and takes a really bad kick. I can tell you from experience that is not a nice place to be on this hole. A lot of trees to contend with from there. And Amanda unfortunately hitting the last tree on the right side of the basket. Gonna have a circle 2 look for the par there.
And everyone finding the trees on their way to the well-guarded basket of hole 9. You can see the sustained focus required gap after gap here on this tricky technical hole. Marianne still battling towards that green. Hits another tree on her way and is now left with this long putt looking towards the downslope behind the basket.
Very scary putt here. Only about 4 meters behind the basket you have room to air your putt. Just puts it under the basket there. Probably pretty smart with the recent putting struggles she's had. As Silva is also missing to the left side. That was pretty surprising. I really thought Silva would be determined enough to make that par putt.
Yeah, do you think having such a significant lead going into a lead card situation removes some of the urgency of birdieing every hole? Or how do you think that changes the mindset of a player coming in with a lead? That's a solid putt and a solid birdie for Anniken. Incredible 3.
Yeah, great birdie. I believe in the second round, as we have seen from many tournaments in the past from Silva, she always plays the second round still with full gas. So a lot of aggressive plays, and I feel like it's only in the final round if she has that big lead where she starts to take things a little bit slower. So I believe Silva still must be a little bit annoyed with the result here, even though carding only the bogey.
But hey, that's our front 9 in the books. Yeah, exciting battle. We see Silva maintaining her solo lead position. Even so far in this front 9, still sitting at 5 under. We see Like Lorentzen sneaking into a second place with 3 under in the front 9. So far, that hot first start of the round. Anniken holding 3rd, with Sophie and Amanda tied in 4th.
Yeah, we saw some struggles on the front 9 here from the card. Also some good birdies, and looking for to pick up that pace on the back 9. That is very scoreable, yet still no easy. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully see you guys on the back 9 of this round 2 action.